We're going to be lying on our back and doing bridges, but these bridges are more related to gait and how we use our hips and feet in gait than a typical fitness type bridge, which really just targets the back of your hips. So we're going to lie down on the ground and place your feet on the floor about hip distance apart. Make sure the feet are straight and not turned out, and they're not too wide or too narrow. Right? So hip distance apart. Place your head on the floor. And what we're going to do is just start by pushing your feet down into the floor. Push straight down into your feet, almost like your feet were resting in clay and you were trying to make a deep impression. And then relax. Now you'll notice as you press your feet down into the floor that your pelvis will lighten. It might even float off. Okay? But that's not due to any muscular event in or around the pelvis. So I'm not tightening my ab muscles to pull my tailbone off the ground. I'm not squeezing my butt muscles to get my pelvis off the ground. It's really the most passive way to get your pelvis to lighten and lift, just by pushing your feet into the floor. So just as we walk, when we have a foot on the ground, we're pushing that foot down and back to activate the muscles on the back of our hips that extend our hips. Press your feet down, float the pelvis up, and just check that you are relaxed. You can poke your abdomen and it should feel like a bowl full of jelly. You should be able to poke your butt muscles and they should be just kind of flapping, flapping in the breeze. All right, so they're not squeezing together or squeezing up. Relax them. Okay, you're only floating about a hand's width off the floor, and then come back down. Press down into your feet, float the pelvis, jelly belly, relaxed glutes. And now what we're going to do is start to reach our knees way back, way down the mat, as if we're trying to reach our knees over our toes. And that's dorsiflexion of the ankle, isn't it? And then bring your knees back and relax your pelvis. Push into your feet, float the pelvis passively, abs relaxed, glutes relaxed. Reach the knees forward. So as your knees are pushed forward through space, it kind of pulls your pelvis away from your rib cage, and then bring your pelvis down. So take your hands and place them on your bottom ribs now. Rest your elbows on the ground. Press your feet into the floor, float your pelvis, relax your abs, relax your glutes. Reach your knees away, but keep your hands in your rib cage where they are. So in other words, I'm not lifting my rib cage up. It's staying low and heavy as I pull my knees away from my hands. Keep pulling your knees forward, and that should get your hips a little higher. And relax it back again. Push your feet into the floor, float the pelvis, keep your rib cage heavy, reach your knees forward, pull your knees away from your hands. So this lengthens a muscle that attaches your bottom rib cage all the way to your legs, called the psoas muscle, and then come back down. So let's do a few more. Press your feet into the floor, float the pelvis, keep your ribs heavy, reach your knees away. Push those knees forward in space. Now, obviously, the back of your legs are going to be quite active now, but it's actually much more of a hamstring exercise still than it is a glute exercise. So I'm not pushing my pelvis straight forward. I'm thinking of pulling it down the mat. Ribs stay heavy, and we're just going to hold this top position now. You can lay your arms down by your sides, relax your upper body. Keep feeling that pressure through your feet, and that reach through the knees is a very intentional movement. So in other words, we don't stop doing it. Once we're in a static position, the reach keeps going. Abs are still relaxed. Try not to overwork the glutes. They'll be active, but they're not the primary mover of the pelvis here. We're trying to get those hamstrings to be really active. So the belly of your hamstring right in the middle of the back of your thigh. Okay, and release it down. Okay, now if you want to, you can stretch your legs out one at a time and just take a rest.